to The Watchers, a show where two women from opposite ends of New Jersey watch movies about how when the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, we're all a little bit Italian.
That's amore.
That's amore. Oh, man. New York it's almost like New York is a character in this movie, Andrea.
It is a little bit like
a little bit
is a character in this in this movie.
I'm Jodie.
I'm Andrea.
And we watched Moonstruck.
We did watch Moonstruck.
Wow.
What a joy.
Wow.
It's so funny because I watched this movie as a kid, and I remember liking it in the way as a kid I liked every movie. And I know that everybody loves this movie, and it is so different from what I remembered as a kid, because I think that you can't watch this with a kid's brain and really get how deeply strange but lovely. And I just want to read a quick little disclaimer related to what you said about how we're all a little Italian. There's an article I really love. I'll probably reference it later on, but by Dom Nero. We should talk about Moonstruck the same way we talk about The Godfather. He's quoting Shanley from, I think, the Criterion Collection, an interview. And Nero says, in one of the mini docs on the disc, Shanley, admits that Italian Americans were in the minority on the production of this film. But he says, laughing under his breath, that after a certain age, everyone is Italian.
Yes. Okay. From that same article, I did read this because right before that he says, written by an Irish guy from the Bronx, directed by a Protestant Canadian, starring a woman of Armenian descent, a Greek American, Nicolas Cage, who sure is half Italian, though it's never been part of his public persona, and a Russian. The film might as well be an Italian American costume party, and then goes into that quote.
It's really good. Really good. Before we get into everything about this movie, because I'm not even sure how we're going to approach talking through it, do you want to let kind of... Also, I say this every time, go watch the movie. This one's so fun. But if you're not going to watch it, or you need a little refresher... It's a Italian-American family in Brooklyn.
Loretta, our main character, is a widow. She's 37. She's a bookkeeper. She's engaged to Johnny Cammareri, who's like a mama's boy. They get engaged in this like silly scene in an Italian restaurant where Bobo, the waiter, is like knows them all very well. It's one of those like everybody knows your name kind of places.
That's another thing that feels really familiar, is the like red sauce joint kind of place where
absolutely
they're all there all the time.
Yeah, they're regulars. So her fiance flies to Sicily to see his dying mother. They're supposed to get married when he gets back. He asks her to call his brother, who he hasn't spoken to in 5 years, to get him to come to the wedding. She finds his brother, Ronnie, working at a bakery. He is missing a hand. He blames Johnny for the slicer accident that caused the loss of his hand. As someone who worked in a deli, one of my biggest fears.
Yeah.
Basically, he blames him because he distracted him from the slicer. They inexplicably fall in love, Loretta and Ronnie.
What do you mean? It's the moon.
Yeah, the moon causes them to fall in love.
It's Cosmo's moon.
Cosmo's moon causes them to fall in love. She says it can't ever happen again. She's going to go on, marry Johnny. He asks her to go see an opera with him, and then he'll leave her alone forever because he only loves two things, opera and her. She agrees, is moved by the opera. Also, there's side plots with the older characters, including her father having an affair, who she sees the opera. After the opera, she goes back, has sex again with Ronnie, goes home in the morning to her family home. Johnny surprises them by coming home from Sicily early. His mother has made a miraculous recovery, but he says he can't marry her. She decides, like in the moment, Ronnie proposes in front of his brother. She says yes.
With his brother's pinky ring,
yes,
which was her engagement ring.
Yes, exactly. And they get married in the family home, and everyone lives happily ever after. Did I miss anything?
Nothing major.
I think that was pretty much it. Like,
those are the main plot points anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I got all of it. I mean, there are the like other love stories happening at the same time. There's her mother and father, who is mother played by Olympia Dukakis, father Cosmo's having an affair. There's Frasier's dad, the professor,
who's like
chasing his young college students, which side note, fucking disgusting. Please stop having this trope in movies.
But he is really charming. I really love his scenes with Olympia.
He's really charming, and also this is a trope that has done a lot of damage.
Yes, but I think we know and he knows that he's being pathetic, and it's because he's a sad sack. We're not supposed
right. Yeah, no, it's clearly deserved every time a woman throws a drink in his face.
And he knows it. And it's not that it's another example, like I was saying before, of it being like the movie being kind of like kind to everybody in the movie. And
yeah, it gives him a moment of mild redemption later where Rose, Cher's mom, Loretta's mom, invites him to have dinner with her at Bobo's, whatever the restaurant's actually called, after a young woman throws a drink in his face, and he's sitting there by himself. And they have a lovely conversation, and he tries to get her to come home with him, and she does not, because she knows who she is.
I love that.
And he does not, clearly.
Yeah. Also, he's obviously Frasier's dad, but he's also in Reality Bites, just to keep connecting our...
he being...
John Mahoney.
Yes. And I would like to apologize in advance to any of our Italian-American listeners. Any Italian-American stereotypes mentioned in this podcast are done with the most love possible, as Andrea and I both, while not being Italian ourselves, grew up in and surrounded by similar types of large Italian-American families.
That's right.
To the point where I was surprised I wasn't Italian when I figured that out.
I always forget you're not.
Yeah, no, I'm not. It's one of the few Western European countries that my family's not from. So I think we already kind of covered our relationship to this movie, but you were a baby when it came out, but you watched it as like a young person. I don't think I saw this in the theater. I remember specifically, I have like this visual flash of a memory of seeing it in my living room with my parents, like in Saddlebrook. So it must have been not long after it came out, but on VHS. And I'm assuming that it was one of the many, many VHSs in your grandmother's house that you watched.
There were a few movies that were just often on rotation in the house. I'm actually wondering if this is an example where I'm leaning more to what is usually your experience, where maybe I actually never sat down in front of it and watched it beginning to end, but it was just one of the movies that was on a lot.
Yeah. I mean, because it was on TV a lot too.
Well, this is one of the ones that was a hit. We often think every movie we loved when we were younger had to have been a hit until we start doing the research. But I mean, this movie was pretty much loved across the board. Aside from the people who like kind of didn't get what it was doing, but like even our friend Roger Ebert, we can maybe talk about
4 stars.
I know.
Yeah. He was on board.
Totally. We can get into the reviews and the reception and all of the awards and all afterward. But just to say, it was surprising to me how beloved this movie has been from the jump, because I keep saying it's strange, and it is strange. It is strange.
Yeah. It grossed $91 million. It's number 17 on the AFI list of the most beautiful love stories and 41 on the AFI list of the funniest comedies in American film history. So this film was nominated for a bunch of Academy Awards. Olympia Dukakis and Cher, I believe, both won for Best Actress and Best Supporting. I think Patrick Shanley also won for Screenplay.
Yeah. And Jewison was nominated for Director. Vincent Gardenia was nominated, and Patrick Palmer. And it was nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was well celebrated in its time. And it's funny, I think it's one of the movies that was really well regarded and kind of has that place in film history, but I don't think of it as something people revisit very often or even talk about that much these days. I think maybe because it has a layer of like strangeness on top of it that makes it hard to get into now if you didn't see it then. I will talk reviews later, but I was kind of putzing around on Reddit And to just in relation to this idea of how it's a strange film that's kind of hard to approach later on, someone who should have gotten it because their username is on Wings of Pastrami, created a thread called Moonstruck 1987, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
And said, first of all, it feels like a play. Obviously, we'll talk about... Yes.
Like, okay, so you do know what it is.
Right. This person says, I know acting and filmmaking has come a long way since the 80s, but the performances are crazy.
It's so funny. I read this too.
Oh, you read this too?
Yeah, and I want you to keep sharing. But the thing I wanted to say is, it's so funny how I feel like this has happened more than once, where you find a Reddit post where the person is explaining what's good and why it works and why people love it, but in a really baffled way.
Yeah, exactly. This person says, and not just in a Nick Cage is overacting because he's Nick Cage kind of way. The whole scene where Cher and Cage end up hooking up is batshit from the writing to the performances. And then this person also says, and then that ending, I refuse to believe that anyone could make sense of this in theaters unless they were deeply ingrained in Italian heritage. He makes it sound like his mother's excitement about the wedding is what brings her back from death. So it feels like when he breaks off the engagement, it's because he wants his mother to die. I had to find a random Google answer explaining that, in fact, the mom was proving that she was not on death's door. In order to convince her son to stay with her and not get married.
That part wasn't confusing to me.
Yeah.
He tells Cher he's going to marry her after his mother dies.
Yeah.
His mother doesn't want him to marry Cher because she's one of those mothers.
Yeah.
So she can't die.
She can't die.
There it is.
Exactly.
There it is.
So then there was a response that I love to this called by someone named Nosy Bastard, who says, it's intentionally theatrical and over the top because it's intentionally operatic. It's referencing and emulating the great Italian operas, particularly Puccini's. It tries to relate and integrate those themes and performance styles with the 1980s cinematic drama style. It's basically made as close to an opera as you can be without ever breaking out into song. I love the ending of this. In my opinion, it's a good movie. I end up watching it every 2 to 3 years, preferably while eating a steak with angel hair pasta.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not even like the movie is being subtle about that. Like before Cage even invites her to the opera, like one of the first images is the poster for the Met for La Boheme.
For La Boheme. Yeah. There's a whole scene in the beginning that like is the only purpose of that whole scene of the truck coming in the background, the stage sets coming out of the truck is like to set you up for the fact that like we are referencing Italian comic opera in this movie.
So
do you get it?
Even the way that like the skyline is shown, even like discounting how big and artificial the moon looks on purpose, like it looks like a painted backdrop. It's not subtle. It is. I know I don't even know what the word is to say this, but it is so strange to keep seeing that skyline with the two towers so prominent.
I wrote one of the very first things I wrote down in my notes was this. I forgot how Twin Towers heavy this is. For those of our listeners that haven't heard us talk about this before, like I was living in New York on September 11th. And so and going dancing in Windows on the World, which is at the top of the one of the towers. So like I wasn't downtown, but this is a very personal time for me, is that transition from the skyline changing. And so
they're just so prominent in those shots.
Yeah.
It's really.
Yes. I found something about the moon that I thought I wrote down about how they made it. Yes.
Yeah, I have that.
I found it.
Okay.
That moon that you were referring to as being sort of over the top and fake looking, in the production, there was literally a prop moon that they named. They called it Wendy. And it was made out of like 196 lights attached to a giant cherry picker. And it like was part of the depiction of the moonrise at night, and it like illuminated the set. So it was not just like in the opening scene backdrop, but it was actually like a lighting creation that they made on set that was very specific.
And it's almost like the moon is
character in the movie,
in this movie.
Weird.
Yeah.
Real weird. Let's talk a little bit about the people involved, maybe. Starting with our creators. So we've got John Patrick Shanley. This man has the wildest filmography I think I've ever seen.
It's nuts.
in terms of randomness, like, okay, Moonstruck, 1987.
Yeah, most notably and most prolifically has just so many plays.
Yes, yeah. Very well-known playwright.
And still, like, he had Brooklyn Laundry 2024. Yeah. It's like every
very,
3
very
or 4
recent.
years he's got something out.
Exactly. Most well-known in terms of that for Doubt, for which he won a Pulitzer. Mm-hmm. But also, wrote Joe versus the Volcano.
Joe versus the Volcano. We need to put that on the list. At some point, we have to cover that movie.
Okay. 1990. So we've got Moonstruck 87. Something called Five Corners.
I don't know about
The January Man in 89. Joe versus the Volcano in 90.
And then I texted you. I said, Jodie,
I couldn't believe this.
We cannot help ourselves. This makes no sense. I can't wait. We'll do this movie eventually. I can't wait to figure out how he isn't like what. Because he wrote this movie. He didn't direct it.
Yeah, he wrote Alive.
Why?
I don't understand this man's brain.
That's exactly right. And the bookends for Alive, Joe versus the Volcano.
Mm-hmm.
Which,
and what else?
If you've never seen it, it's like a Meg Ryan. It's one of the Meg Ryan, Tom Hanks romantic comedies. It is so strange. It is so 1990. That's the only year that movie could have happened.
But I need you to tell us what's after Alive.
Then he does Alive, and in the exact same year.
Yeah, 93.
We're back.
The year I graduated high school.
Famously. We're back, A Dinosaur Story.
What?
Animated.
I don't understand.
Dinosaur movie. And then 2 years later, a movie.
Yeah.
It's a guilty pleasure movie for me. I haven't seen it in a long time. But he wrote Congo, which is a deeply problematic movie.
Sure.
But I loved it as a kid.
Based on a novel by Michael Crichton.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I do not understand this man's filmography.
Yeah. And then, and between all of this, he's doing theater, because there's a break between Congo and Doubt, but he was still writing plays and putting up plays. And then after Doubt, it's another 12-year break, and he writes and directs Wild Mountain Time, which I've never seen, but there's a How Did This Get Made episode about it that is one of my favorites.
Really?
It's because it's such a weird...
Emily
it just
Blunt
sounds like
Jamie Dornan, huh?
Yeah, John Hamm, Christopher Walken.
Whoa!
It sounds like a deeply strange movie, and I think if I watch it, I'll love it. And it's like knowing it's the same guy who did Moonstruck. Where it's like he's kind of always, because the thing with Moonstruck is it's obviously an opera, but it also feels like a weird kind of fable.
Fairy tale.
It's Beauty and the Beast.
Yes.
It's also Shakespearean.
There's references to Cinderella in it. Yeah.
And he's another one of those people who's always like a level or like a layer removed from reality. So, So I've also never seen Alive, and this is making me even more interested to see it.
I don't think I have either because of my weak stomach. However, I did watch the most recent Something of the Snow. What was that called?
Society of the Snow?
Society of the Snow. It was like the remake of the story that Alive was based on, which is horrifying. I don't know why I watched it. But I don't think I've ever seen Alive either. We definitely are going to watch it at some point. It's also on this list, the Letterboxd list we're working from.
Yeah, we'll get there.
So Norman Jewison was the director for this film. He also was a producer on a number of films, and interestingly, because again, we can't help ourselves with this red string map we're making, he produced Hal Ashby's directorial debut, The Landlord, in 1970. Perfect. How do we do this?
I don't know.
It's pretty wild.
He's another one with a really prolific career, and we have 2 Fun Jersey connections through him. But he most relevant to Moonstruck is he wrote, produced, and directed Jesus Christ Superstar. He's got he's like a handful of plays adapted into film. Fiddler on the Roof. Yeah, he's got a pretty impressive resume. But he also produced January Man, But the real Jersey connection for me is, have you ever seen Bogus?
No.
Probably not. You would have been too old for it. Bogus was a movie that I loved as a kid. It came out in 96, and it stars Whoopi Goldberg, Gerard Depardieu, and Haley Joel Osment. And Haley Joel Osment is sent to live with a family friend after his mom dies, I think. And he's sent to Newark. He's sent to Jersey. And then Gerard Depardieu plays his imaginary best friend.
Okay.
So it
interesting.
Yeah, it's a very Jersey movie for that reason. But the next movie he makes after that is The Hurricane, which is that Denzel Washington movie about the boxer. He's convicted of a murder. And I've never seen it. I'm just familiar with it. But that story, it's a true story, and it took place. It happened in Paterson.
Right. Yeah.
So he must have loved Jersey so much.
Well, the other Jersey connection, which is extremely important, is the fact that there is a restaurant called Moonstruck in Asbury Park.
Yes. I checked their daily specials, or I checked their weekly specials this morning. Nothing that really stood out to me. Yeah, but
we don't need to make a little trip to the restaurant.
No, I don't think so. But yeah.
Are you sure?
And then, of course, the most directly related to what we've been doing so far, Jersey reference, is Montclair Theater Queen, friend of your family friend,
friend of my mother. Yeah, exactly. Well, there's also let's talk about the cast, because so let's stick with the Jersey for a moment. Danny Aiello, who plays Johnny Cammareri, lived in the town that my family lived in forever. I lived in Ramsey, where my dad was born, where my grandparents met, where I lived.
And he died in
Saddle River.
Yeah, he died in Saddle River.
Yeah. He was, I don't think I ever saw him out in the world, but I was aware that there were a lot of actors, including him, that lived in this area. Saddle River is just it's a fancy place in New Jersey that a lot of actors end up because it's close enough to the train to get to the city really easily. But it's the houses are big and spread out, and there's a lot of old money.
Yeah, he hated the movie and his role in it.
I know.
Really...
oh, yeah. You take it. I read this.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
This is quoted. It's from... I read it in a Mental Floss article, or listicle. But it's from a radio show, the Diane Rem radio show. Mm-hmm. And he said I couldn't stand the character I played. Norman Jewison, the director, when I told him, he said, "Are you crazy or wonderful? But in my neighborhood, you can't play a wimp on the screen. People didn't even know me as an actor, but to see me as they didn't know me was troubling in the area where I live. So it did adversely affect me at first. All I know is that I was stupid looking on the screen."
Yep. Did you also read the part where he talked about Nick Cage?
Yeah. I said, "Do you think Nicky..." I love Nicky. That's so Italian.
Yeah.
I've never heard anybody call him Nicky, but I was his name's Nicholas. We're calling him Nicky.
Yeah.
"Do you think Nicky Cage is going to get a woman what I have?" I said, "That's not going to happen." I said, "Cher would be with me from the beginning."
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
Danny.
Sure.
I love the confidence, but...
Yeah, exactly.
But that just shows he kind of really doesn't get what this movie is doing, because the Cher at the beginning of the movie is with him for the reasons he thinks that she should be, because he can provide better for her. Exactly. So funny.
Yeah. No, that's it's so ridiculous. But I will say the thing that weirdly I associate Danny Aiello with is the fact that he was the dad in Madonna's Papa Don't Preach video. As an MTV kid, and also a big Madonna fan when I was a kid, that is honestly, I think, probably where I know his face best from. So, take yourself down a notch, sir.
Hilarious. I mean, he is another one, though. This is a movie with so many, I said seasoned last week, you said established. His filmography is huge. Yeah.
Well, the older cast in this movie is incredible, and very well traveled before Moonstruck. Yeah. We talked about Olympia Dukakis last week. We don't need to really go into her again, but again, really established theater actor. This was the film that kind of launched her from, we were saying last week, launched her from theater into the world of film and TV. Mm-hmm. Vincent Gardenia, who plays Cosmo, her dad. He's been in a lot of things as well. I think the most important probably to you and definitely to me is he was Mr. Mushnick in Little Shop of Horrors.
That's right.
So important.
Have we covered it?
No, and we're going to at some point.
We have to.
I know. We have to.
Oh, it's so good.
I also love his backstory. He was, from an immigrant family, as most of these Italian-American actors were in some way. His father established an acting troupe that presented Italian language melodramas.
Hell yeah.
And as a child, he performed in that troupe in neighborhoods around New York City. He later said the titles changed, but they were usually about a son or a daughter who gets in trouble, runs away, then begs forgiveness. His debut in the company, he was 5 years old and he played a shoeshine boy.
Cute.
Yeah, and he was a member of the company until 1960, 5 years after his first English-speaking role on Broadway. He also served in the Army in World War II. Like, what a weird life.
Yeah.
Like, amazing life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, I think I've said this before on this pod. I'm not sure how I feel about the concept of the American dream, but, like, that's pretty, like,
what you
textbook
think, yeah,
what you
exactly.
think of it. Yeah. We have our obviously our stars, Cher and Nicolas Cage. Before this, Cher had been in Silkwood, a few other small things, but Silkwood was the thing she kind of got noticed in, and then Mask, which I jokingly mentioned last week. It's a very strange movie.
Yeah.
Not The Mask, but Mask. And then this really was a huge, huge deal for her as an actor.
She's so good in this.
She's luminous.
She's like luminous. She's so confident. There's a version of this movie where there's Loretta is how Ayala says it sometimes.
Yeah.
Brenda and Eddie. There's a version of this movie where Loretta is could be played kind of mousy, and like she's resigned to Johnny Camerari because she feels like she doesn't deserve better, and but that's not it. She's just practical and self-assured and
has her weird superstitions.
Yeah, which is. Remember when we were covering the bear? Do you remember when we covered the bear?
Last week?
Yeah.
Or a week before? Yeah.
But when we were talking about one of my biggest laugh line is Richie, who wants to melt some provolone on a baby right now.
Yeah.
There's like this movie, that could be a line in this movie. It's like,
yeah, 100%.
Like weird, I shouldn't say weird, the like really specific Italian superstition stuff. That's what that reminded me of. And that's why I was like, is Richie referring to something I just don't know about? And like this movie that's the kind of thing that.
Well, like, and she, at the airport when she's seeing him off to go to Sicily, the old woman puts a curse on the plane. Like, there's a lot of that traditional superstition stuff.
Yeah, the back and forth of the curse stuff in this, where Loretta's the first one to mention a curse because it's why she at first tells Johnny she can't marry him.
Yeah,
but then the second the old woman says she curses the plane, Loretta says, "I don't believe in curses."
Yeah, and I think like I saw a description of this character that made a lot of sense to me. I got a little bit JSTOR, not a ton of time in the PDF world, but a little bit. And there's a description. This is from an article that I read called An Honest Contrivance, Opera and Desire in Moonstruck by Marcia Citron. And in that article, when describing Loretta's character and contrasting it to Nick Cage's character and connecting them both to tropes in opera, she says, in many ways, Loretta is Ronnie's antithesis. She is practical, unsentimental, and thrives on order and detail. The crack in Loretta's ordered life is her belief that bad luck or good luck can flow from events. This irrational quirk opens a window for opera to enter her soul. And I think that's just a really good description of what her character represents.
Yeah, because she's not, I said she's like headstrong, self-assured. She's not like cold or...
No, she's practical.
Yes,
and she's a little bit like resigned to her life as it is.
And she is 37 years old, so she's ancient and her life is almost over. So it's important to. It's funny how they have to like mouse Cher down a little bit with the little bit of grays in her hair so that makeover can be so transformational, even though it's Cher and she's beautiful no matter what.
It doesn't work. She jumps off the screen even when they try to
But it's another thing that I kind of like about the movie is that we're not supposed to think again that Cher is this ugly,
right,
who's settling because she has to. She's still beautiful. No. She's just,
yeah, she's just, tired.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Spiritually tired.
Exactly. There is another article that I read. I think it was on the Criterion page, called Moonstruck: Life in the In-Between.
Oh yeah, that's great.
It's a great article.
Yeah, it's a great article. Emily Vanderwerf is how she's credited, but we talk about her. She comes up all the time because we can't fucking help ourselves.
Yeah,
she's Emily St. James.
Yeah, who's written on a lot of the things we've talked about. She's written on X-Files. She's written on Buffy, I believe. She's written on.
Well, she's written. You're saying on in the academic sense, not in the show writer sense. She hasn't written for the shows, but she did write on. First and foremost, even though we're saying it last, she wrote with Libby Hill episode 6 of this season of Yellow Jackets Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
We got Emily St. James come on the podcast.
Yeah, she's everywhere.
Yeah, so she wrote a really anyway, back to where we were.
Right.
So we've got so many red strings I'm tripping over them at this point.
I know. She wrote an article called Moonstruck: Life in the In-Between on the Criterion webpage and talks in that article. This is where this whole thread started for me. We were talking about the makeover of Cher. And in this article, Emily St. James talks about this makeover and how it's not the same as a lot of other makeovers that we've seen in similar films before and after. This concept of the makeover in a romantic movie we have talked about before. And I just want to read a little from this article. She says, she transforms alone. Unlike in most other makeover sequences, there's no one else present to appreciate how beautiful she has become. Mm-hmm. She sees herself in the mirror and she seems free of the shackles of expectation, superstition, and routine that have defined her life so far. And I think I hadn't really thought about that until I read this article. But the fact that there's no one, she goes to the Cinderella beauty salon, right, to transform.
So funny.
But she completes the transformation herself. She goes shopping, she buys a dress, she buys shoes, she comes home, she puts on her makeup, she puts on the dress. There's no fairy godmother is actually transforming her. She's transforming herself.
And it's not Ronnie is already in love with her.
Yeah. It's sparked by that connection, but it's for her. It's almost like there's a version of herself that she's rediscovering.
Yeah. And it's not that all of a sudden, she shows up at the opera and all of a sudden Ronnie sees her as beautiful. He compliments her. He thinks she looks beautiful, but you can tell it's not she could have shown up however.
Yeah.
And in his weird way, he is in love with her already. Whatever.
That's very
the magic of this movie. We have to go with it. Totally.
It's falling in love in a day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But she's just luminous in the whole thing. Even in the beginning, she's just stunning. There's something about her face on screen that is, especially when it's filmed in the way that this movie is filmed. Mm-hmm. It's really beautifully shot in a very, gauzy is the wrong word, but in a very it looks at the characters in a very romantic way.
Yeah. It also, I kept thinking about, as I was watching this, kind of the way we've talked about the bear, in that there are no villains in this movie. You don't really, even the people who are cheating, the movie cares about its characters. It's really tender. It really loves everybody in the movie, even Johnny. And even in the way it's shot, they're all they're being very gently held, it seems like.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of that has to do with the filmmaking, I think. Mm-hmm. The way that the camera works in this film, it treats its characters with love, and it kind of has that sort of fairy tale romantic look to the way it's shot. Brooklyn is empty in this movie for some reason. There's nobody in Brooklyn except these families and the supporting care and Bobo at the restaurant, who I love.
It's like Patterson a little bit. The movie.
Yeah, there's where are all the people?
Mm-hmm.
But there was...
Which is funny because one of the fun facts about the making of the movie is that the bakery, it's a real bakery, and the owner refused to shut down. So he was still selling 5,000 loaves a day, I think, to his customers. So it says even more that it feels so zoomed in on these people. Yeah. There was a quote that I read about the filming of this movie, like the way that it was filmed, the camera work, that said, and this might have been from the Ebert review, and if it is, sorry, Roger, I didn't quote this in my notes, but it says the camera is suitably gentle for a film like this, choosing long takes and unobtrusive pans and cuts that lead us quite softly and sometimes poetically from scene to scene. And that's just... There's also the way that they talk about the way the house is filmed. There was another quote that I loved that was talking about the house itself. I love the house.
I know. I do too. Let's talk about the house. It says, this was in my little section on connection to fairy tales, but it says Moonstruck consistently evokes a fairy tale framework throughout, and its fabulous air spreads not merely in its various references to a magical moon casting a romantic spell on its characters, but also by its presentation of the Castorini home as a castle under siege, looking like a dungeon in its early post-proposal scenes, and depicting Father Cosmo as isolated from his queen and seduced by his own power in plumbing sales and a comely sweater-wearing courtesan. And it's true, the way the house is filmed, like it's super dark in the beginning, right? And it's like, I even noted in the scene where she's telling her father that she's going to marry Johnny, there's this harsh overhead lighting, and it's like, they're like brightly lit, almost like an interrogation scene, and everything else around them is dark. And then they go upstairs and Rose is in the bed in the dark. And then like it lightens up as the movie goes on. The contrast between light and dark kind of evens out over time. Yeah. So then by the end, when they're all in that kitchen scene together, it's you can see everything. It's daylight. It's I want to say I also noticed this is just like, it's funny if it's Ebert, whoever said about the long takes and all of that kind of leading you scene to scene. I also noticed in this movie, and I thought about it, I was like, I wonder how often this happens in other movies I just don't pay attention to. And I was trying to figure out why it popped for me on this, and maybe this is why, is that a few times throughout the film you'll hear the dialogue or the sound, whatever's happening in the audio of the next scene a second or two in the previous scene, so it pulls you into the next one. And so it, again, I just noticed it more in this film than I usually do, and pairing that with what you just read is interesting. It just feels connected. Anyway, actually, I think from that same Emily St. James article, she talks about the cinematography and about, this is where I was kind of going with what I was saying about the light. She says, David Watkins' cinematography draws sharp contrast between light and shadow, particularly in the interior scenes, and then says, talking about the idea of like the light and dark as a binary. And then says, except the film is not actually as governed by binaries as it initially seems. Watkins' cinematography, which slowly blends light into shadow and vice versa as the film goes on, is a key element to understanding how Moonstruck grasps the grace of a new possibility. So I love, this is the shit that I like really get into. She says a binary by its very existence suggests some sort of transitional space between two poles. The sequence that is perhaps the film's quietest and most beautiful, lit with understated precision, features Loretta kicking a can down the street as she makes her way home after a passionate night with Ronnie, and takes place at dawn, one of those very liminal realms. Well, read Emily St. James on anything.
Yeah,
let's just say that.
She's so thoughtful. And even just the fact that like the way this movie takes place in such a short period of time, because I mean it's called Moonstruck because everybody's like under the spell of the moon, and
it's very play-like.
It's so well, and in fact, the original title was The Bride and the Wolf. Which
sounded too much like a horror movie.
Yeah, that's what Jewison said. But I disagreed because to me, it's not. It didn't feel like a horror movie. It felt like a fable, or some like. And I think that's obviously what Shanley was going for.
The tortoise and the hare, the bride and the wolf.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but I think obviously Moonstruck is also a perfect title for this movie. Fascinating, and that it almost feels like that Amore could have been written for this movie.
Well, and, I was reading in terms of that as the intro song that originally they had put part of the Puccini opera as a lead-in in the beginning, and it confused the test audiences. They didn't know if they were going to be watching a comedy or something more dramatic. And so when they replaced it with That's Amore, it introduced the tone better.
Fascinating. That's fascinating. I love
it. Makes a lot of sense.
Totally.
Because there's this line that both comic opera and this film are trying to walk between melodrama and over the top, like bravado and storytelling, and something that feels sweet and real and has a connection to reality.
Yeah. This is a perfect song to do that, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
I have one more little fun fact about the house. I don't know if that's the right word, but did you see who just put it up on the market recently? Who owned 19 Cranberry Street for the last few years? Is Amy Schumer.
What?
Isn't that weird?
That's wild. No, I did not see that.
Yeah. Just recently.
Wow.
In the last year it went up on the market.
That's fascinating. Mm-hmm. Huh. Interesting. The only alt casting thing I found for this
I couldn't find much.
Was Peter Gallagher was considered for Nick Cage's character. Apparently, Cher is a big reason that Nicolas Cage is in this film. She went to bat for him. She saw him in Peggy Sue Got Married and was a huge fan, and really, I guess, believed he was the only person that could pull off this part, because it's so we haven't really talked about Nick Cage and this character yet, and we really need to, because it is wild.
Yeah, I can you think of anybody else who could have?
There is you have to play this character so sincere and yet so unhinged that I don't think there are a lot of people that could have done it.
I can't think of anyone. She apparently threatened to quit if they didn't cast him.
Yeah. He also, unfortunately, though, really didn't want to do this movie. Apparently, his agent kind of forced him to. He said, "I would never pay money to see this film." He didn't want it. He wasn't into it at all. He said, "When I saw the finished film, I didn't know what in the world to make of it." He wanted to do he said, he wanted to make the kind of movies that are essentially punk gestures.
Well, he was really young. He doesn't look it to me, but he was only 23 when they made this movie, and Cher was 41. But I don't think
he looks much older.
Yeah, I don't think we're supposed to think of this as a May December kind of thing.
Absolutely not. No, they look the same age.
Yeah, he just looks so much older. But it makes sense then that his early 20s sensibility, he would have been a little less interested in a movie that's about 37-year-old woman finding love, I kind of,
and the opera.
Yeah. It sort of makes sense to me, because he says too, he lost his fiance 5 years ago. I think he lost his hand. He would have been 17 or 18 years old. You're not supposed to think he's 23, I don't think.
No, definitely not.
But yeah, do you have about what he did, the movie he did after this?
Yeah, after this, he followed this up with Vampire's Kiss. He says, in the movie, he eats a live cockroach. He says, "I was in such a state of shock that I had made a sweet romantic movie that I had to do Vampire's Kiss right after."
I kind of love that.
Yeah. Yeah, he really clearly thought of himself as a young, rebellious, actor that he...
Okay, national treasure. Let's relax.
But his uncle is Francis Ford Coppola. And when he was 15, he tried to convince him to give him a screen test saying, quote unquote, "I'll show you acting."
To Francis Ford
Coppola. In the article where I got this, it says his outburst was met with silence in the car. By this stage of his career, Coppola had already directed Marlon Brando, Al Pacino, Gene Hackman, and Robert De Niro.
I'll show you acting.
Yeah.
Gotta say, I am always impressed by Cage not taking the Coppola name into show business with him.
Well, he didn't want it to seem like there was nepotism in his success as an actor. I
think that's commendable.
Yeah. He also had a minor role as an unnamed coworker in Fast Times at Ridgemont High of Judge Reinhold.
Oh, I don't think I knew that.
In 82. Yeah, that was his film debut. And it said his experience on the film was marred by cast members endlessly quoting his uncle's film, which is part of what inspired him to change his name.
Good for him.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was like, it's so funny how much he didn't want to be in this movie and how much success he got from this movie.
And how, again, I don't know that it works without him. He's so,
No.
his choices, because it's funny that he didn't want to be in this movie. He feels so committed to the performance.
Yeah, absolutely. From the very first second. Like, the scene in the basement of the bakery is just, it's so over the top that I can see how if you're not expecting what you're getting here, you're just like, what the fuck is happening?
Well, and I think this tells you, if by the end of that scene you're bought in, this is going to be a movie that you love forever. Like,
Yeah.
it's so, just the two of them there in that scene together. When he's yelling to bring me the knife, the big knife.
The big knife, yeah. And she's just calmly standing there talking to him.
Yeah, she's just so unimpressed.
Yeah. I mean,
that monologue, him like monologuing to his hand, it's so, or lack thereof, to his like prosthetic hand.
Yeah. I don't know what's important to talk about besides his perfection in this role. Like, he's perfect for this role, I think is what it is. Like, this is such a specific and difficult role to do. Jewison famously even said, like, this is the hardest role by far in the film to make it work.
Yeah, I think you turn it a few degrees either direction, like up or down, and it just doesn't work. He's got it exactly right.
Yeah. There, in the article that I was reading about the opera connection, there is some interesting stuff about it's the same article where I was saying how Cher is this the opposite of Ronnie. She's the practical, the based in reality. It also talked about his character and the obsession and passion for opera and what that says about his character. I'll just read a tiny bit. It says, Ronnie's a working class Italian American whose opera passion seems to conflict with his class, and the mismatch renders him a bohemian of sorts. Operatic passion guides his personality as well, for his behavior can swing from one extreme to another. This is high melodrama. It leads the film scholar Kathleen Rowe to see Ronnie as a, quote, melodramatized male. Although a common type in post-classical Hollywood film, its appearance in Moonstruck is striking because the film takes a positive view of the feminizing quality of excessive emotion. We can consider many opera heroes, especially in late Romantic Italian works, as melodramatized males. And so Rodolfo, who is the character in La Boheme that I think we're supposed to be connecting him to, is doubly marked by feminizing traits because he's a poet. Peter Franklin notes how the popular elements of Puccini's operas helped break down the historical divide with high art, and how the label of feminine was applied to his works as a sign of their inferior cultural status. So, like, this is just the shit that I really get into, but, like, this idea of Ronnie's extreme, like, brutist masculinity in the beginning and his love of the, like, sensitive and melodramatic stories in Italian opera as these two parts of his personality, I think is a really interesting, like, way to look at and talk about masculinity in this movie. So yeah, I don't know if that kind of struck a chord for you based on how you were looking at the performance, but I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is such his character, I think I've said I've said Beauty and the Beast like 5 times. You can imagine that it feels to me like when you meet him for the first time and he's at the ovens, that he has been in that room for 5 years.
Yes.
That like he lost his hand, and that the version of him before he lost his hand was the version that Loretta meets at the opera.
Yeah.
And that it is this thing that got in the way of who he like really is. Because
it's like Phantom of the Opera as well.
It's totally like Phantom of the Opera. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he knows about art. He's like explaining the art to her at the Met. And so that totally
she's the clueless
tracks.
one. And he's the one who's like telling her about it. Yeah.
And he's the one who gets the big romantic speeches, like when he does that. We're not here to make things perfect. We're here to ruin ourselves. That whole
and
thing
break our hearts and love the wrong people and die. That one.
Now get in my bed. It's so like
imagine Peter Gallagher trying to say that line.
Yeah,
we are here to ruin ourselves and to break our hearts and love the wrong people and die.
And
I can't imagine other people being able to pull that off necessarily.
No, I don't think so. Just absolutely wild to think about the fact that this movie and Raising Arizona came out in the same year.
Oh, I know.
Incredible.
Nick Cage's career in general is a wild ride with lots of like strange ups and downs and like moments of absolute brilliance and then insane choices. But like in 1 year, it's crazy.
And the year before is Peggy Sue Got Married. But Raising Arizona, Moonstruck the same year. And then like, Vampire's Kiss, Time to Kill, Wild at Heart. He just has such a fascinating... my favorite run of movies is between 95 and 98. He does Kiss of Death, Leaving Las Vegas, The Rock, Con Air, Face Off, and then City of Angels.
Oh my God.
Just truly bananas filmography.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, the pairing of him with the writer Shanley that we were talking about, how his filmography is totally off the charts, like and all over the place.
Exactly.
I think it's kind of perfect, and I keep saying this, that he's perfect in this role, but it's not that he's perfect in this role. It's I can't imagine someone else doing this in the way that he does it. There's like this idea of melodrama, like we talked about in the opera and in this movie. There is this definition of melodrama that is like a presentation of a heightened or embellished reality in keeping with the scale of human emotion. And it's this writer, Eric Bentley, says melodrama becomes more natural than naturalism because it gives voice to the unrestrained soul. And it's like when you read that sentence and then you think, who could play that?
Right. Yeah. Who could give voice to the unrestrained soul?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
And it's just, I don't know. There's something where he makes believable the idea that, like, I don't know, maybe Loretta really is cursed, and maybe that woman really, you know what I mean? Like, not that the plane goes down, but like, he's like a bridge between that, like, melodrama that you're talking about there and the more like grounded parts of this movie.
Yeah.
Of which there are a few.
Yeah. But I think the fact that that La Boheme is laced throughout the whole movie, it's not just like a thing they go see, is pointing at this idea of melodrama consistently. That's right. And so like there's a number of scenes where pieces of the opera are played, but even when they're at the opera, there are direct references. As things are happening in the opera, there are things that Nicolas Cage is like, there's literally a lyric that says, if you want, I'll take your hand. And it's at the moment where he takes her hand in the audience. And so there's all of these connections where both the writing and directing are pointing at this as a comic opera in and of itself.
Well, and the fact that one of my first notes was like, everything is so public. Like when Johnny proposes to Loretta, everybody in the restaurant is commenting on it.
Yeah, it's like a Greek. It's not the same thing, but like I think Greek chorus. I think of like, you know,
it's just like they're being watched in a way that you might lean over while you're watching a play or an opera, and like, I mean, I guess you're probably not supposed to talk, but you know what I mean. Like they're on a stage the whole time.
Yeah, absolutely. They're like everyone's commenting on how he's proposing. Like, oh, he kneeled down.
He's gonna ruin his suit.
Yeah. Fucking Christ.
But even that scene where I'm like, I keep saying this, but like Johnny's not a bad guy. He's just kind of hapless. And like Loretta she's not like sad about the fact that he's so practical about it. She just is like, this is how it should be done. I'll help you. Like, yeah.
Well, and because she does believe that somehow she is cursed. And so, and partly because of the way maybe that she got married in the first place, that they went to City Hall, that there was no like official wedding. And so she's really insistent that all of these things go in this quote unquote traditional way.
Right. It's not so much
that she's not cursed.
Right. It's not so much that she's like, oh, I've always dreamt of somebody getting
romantic.
down on. Yeah. No, it's practical.
Yeah. Like her first marriage was the romantic one. This is the practical one. But she's like, yeah, but you're going to die in a strange like crash of some kind if you don't do this properly.
Exactly. I could talk about, I know we're doing that thing where I'm making us be a little all over the place, but that opening scene I could talk about forever. There's so many fun choices. Danny Aiello is so, just some of the ways, like when, and I have the script up and this isn't in it, this choice. He says, will you marry me? Cher. Loretta says, what? And then the next line in the script is him asking again, it's just him repeating, will you marry me? But instead in the scene, it goes, will you marry me? What? And then he goes, huh? Will you marry me? Like then he echoes back her, what? It's such a fun little specific choice. I don't know what it is about it. He also says when he's scratching his his head, he says, my scalp is not getting enough blood sometimes. Yeah. Just that wording is so specific and
I know. He like you said, he's not a bad guy. But he is a drip and he is a mama's boy.
Drip. Yeah.
Like
totally.
And that is such a stereotype of like Italian men or Italian American men.
Yeah. And Ronnie even calls him out on it.
Yeah. Exactly. Oh, you know what I want to tack on real quick since we're talking about the representation of Italian Americans. I will say that this representation of an Italian-American Brooklyn family is in some ways very stereotypical. The mama's boy, the obsession with marriage and home and family, the older grandfather character who's a little like office rocker.
I love
He's great.
him.
He's great.
Sorry.
No,
please, you go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to say, but in some ways it deviates pretty dramatically from the typical representations of Italian Americans in movies, especially around this time. Like, there's no mobsters, there's no violence, right? It's there was an Esquire article that said this was written by an Italian American person.
This is the article I mentioned earlier. This is the Dom Nero article.
Okay, yeah, and he says. Every other depiction of my heritage is dominated by violent cigar-chomping Goombas. The experience of watching Moonstruck feels as revitalizing as a shot of Venesa in your morning espresso. It's a loving, non-violent portrait of Italian Americans that I wish would get a little more airtime over the many, many gangster narratives that have come to represent our people.
Yeah, and I think that's so right. It's like, this is the family that feels so much more real to the families that I knew and grew up with, who love those movies.
Yeah. But I mean, it also was very loved by Italian Americans. Like, I can't speak for all of them, but, it was definitely beloved by the ones I knew.
Yeah. Cosmo reminds me so much of Cicero throughout this movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's from The Bear, if you're not listening to our Bear recaps because you don't watch that show, but he's the like... older,
it's like the patriarch character that's like a little beaten down by life, is always trying to take care of everyone but is a little misguided in it.
Yeah, but clearly loves his family. And we forgive him for some indiscretions that you might not.
I don't, because like, he hurt Rose, and I love Rose. Rose is perfection.
But she's like, what's fun is that like Loretta, you can tell was raised by these two people, because Rose is hurt, but in more of like a
she feels disrespected.
Yes, that's exactly the word I was looking for. She's not heartbroken about it. And I think
like she put in all this work.
Yeah. And she knows he's not going to leave her.
Right.
Like he's not going to leave Rose.
Right.
And I don't even think she feels like he doesn't love her. It's because her whole thing. It's like, men chase women because they fear death. She really believes that.
Yeah, it's very gendered in this film. Like, it's very, she's a woman. She's long suffering. She's not going to cheat on her husband, even though, she knows he's cheating on her. Mm-hmm. She's going to do the right thing, go home, wait for him.
Because she knows who she is.
Yeah. Yeah. But the men are, in some ways always still a little bit children and can't control their desire to escape death by seeing multiple women.
When she finally calls him out on it. And, she says, like, you know, you're going to die someday. The way he kind of almost smiles and says it sort of genuinely, like, thank you, Rose, it's another one of those choices in this movie that is so particular and specific that I don't know works in a different kind of movie. I don't know.
Well, it's very, like, I've been married to this woman for 50 years.
Yeah.
Like, nothing surprises me anymore.
Right. And you do believe at the end, in that scene where everything comes together so neatly, when she says, I want you to stop seeing her, he's going to stop seeing her. Yeah.
It reminded me in some weird way, and this speaks to the proliferation of gangster films about Italian Americans, of like Tony Soprano and Carmela.
Yeah, absolutely. And his Gumar, like,
the long-suffering wife. I also love Rita and Raymond, Rose's brother, and his wife. They're just very practical. And they're very sweet. And there's the scene when the moon shines over all of them and their houses, where he gets up and looks at the moon, and she says, in that light, you could be 25 again.
Yeah,
it's really sweet.
There are a few moments like that of these older couples where when Loretta is picking up the champagne, and that's where the first mention of the wolf comes in, because the woman says, I've seen the wolf in everybody I've ever known, and I see the wolf in you.
Yeah.
And then he says, do you know what I see when I look at you?
Yeah.
It's like the girl I fell in love with, or the girl I married, or whatever. And it kind of like warms her over. There's just this like...
Yeah.
This like, I don't know what it is that is so... It's just not typical for movies to kind of feature these like worn in soft kind of like...
Yeah. Well, I think it's kind of drawing a parallel from the older couples to Loretta and Ronnie, right? Like it's showing us that like old love, quote unquote, is not pat. It's not simple. Like it still has all these different facets to it. It's not like you get married and then everything is just like rolls on from there in this like unbroken path. There's all these different variations in the love stories of the older characters as well. Because I do think that like we're meant to think of Loretta and Ronnie's love story as somehow very young and passionate. And so the older couples are kind of, I think they're partly to be like, well, it's not ever gone. It's just deepened and more complex.
Yeah, and in contrast to what she would have with Johnny. Which you don't imagine having the kind of like...
Yeah, that scene with Raymond and Rita is definitely like a contrast to the tone between Johnny and Loretta.
Exactly.
Should we talk about, we mentioned this already, but Ebert's review? Because we always bring him up now.
When I went to look him up, I was like, he's not going to get it.
I know. 4 stars.
I think he's one of those people how there are all these studies that if your court case, if sentencing happens before lunch, you're going to get a tougher sentence because the judge is hungry and therefore cranky.
Yeah, he had a good meal and a good cup of coffee.
Yeah, I really think that Ebert's mood probably really affects how he views a movie.
Yeah.
He loved it.
He did. And it's so funny when you read the review, he can't quite explain why. A lot of his review is just describing what's happening. And then he tries to talk about what he likes about it, but it's really just more description.
Yeah.
He's talking about the acting and how great it is. And he's talking about how the screenplay is inspired and the parallel stories and how well they work with each other. But when he's trying to describe what it is that really works about it, he says, where is it? There's a line that was like so perfectly.
Yeah, it's the thing where he kind of like does finally center in on it, I think, that you're talking about, is he says, part of Joseph's success comes through the control of tone. The movie is never slapstick, even when it threatens to be, even when Cage's character's in full display. And then there's a muted, bittersweet quality and a surprising amount of dialogue about death, which for the older characters gives a poignant quality to their lives and desires. Is that...
Yep, that's what I was thinking of. That's like the one sort of specific compliment that he gives the film that explains why he likes it so much. But a lot of the review is just talking about the acting and what happens. He's not, it's funny. It's like he's having trouble pinpointing, I think, why it works so well. Like for a 4-star review, you would expect it to be very like effusive and kind of raving about all the different aspects of the film. But this line, part of Jewison's success comes from the control of tone, I think actually is the thesis of why it works. Like, because without that control, it can fly in one direction or another and really ruin the whole thing.
Yeah. And he says Jewison, but it's not just him, because there are 2 other moments in the review where he is sort of saying the same thing in a different way, because then in the next paragraph, he says, the cinematography by David Watkin often bathes, this is really specific and gets back to what you were explaining too, often bathes the characters in the cold light of the full moon when they are for a second seized with sublimity. Otherwise, he uses warm domestic colors and creates an unusual sense of place. The Castorini home, with its massive dark bedroom furniture and piles of comforters, its family portraits on the wall, its dining room unused, its kitchen, the family stage, becomes so familiar to us. There's surprising impact in the final shot, which simply backs out through the rooms. And like, if you're not really careful about how you balance all of that, it could feel disjointed. It could feel, you could feel overwhelmed by the house and underwhelmed by that cold light of the moon. But it is just really carefully done.
At the very end of that article, he says, I was struck by how subtle and gentle it is, despite all the noise and emotion. How it loves its characters and refuses to limit their personalities to a few comic traits.
That's right.
Yeah. Speaking of like the specificity of that house, like when they're in the kitchen talking, I could feel my elbows sticking to that plastic tablecloth.
Yes.
Like it was visceral.
That kitchen, I mean, I think the whole house feels so real and lived in, but that kitchen, the like Cento cans of tomatoes, just the color, the way everything is like, you can tell stuff has just been making its way into that kitchen for decades because they've had that house forever. Also that if Cher marries Johnny, they're going to sell the house is such a mom threat in a big family, generations family like that.
Yeah, because it's the family house.
Yep.
And but you know, her dad doesn't like him, so it's like they can't move in. Mm-hmm. It's so funny.
So we'll sell the house. So forget the house then.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll sell it to Amy Schumer.
Well, and I love the assumption that like when Ronnie comes in to the house, even though they know that she is basically cheating on her fiance with this man, he fits in with the family immediately. Yeah. And you know they're moving in. Mm-hmm. Like that solves the problem. Exactly. She and Ronnie are moving in to the family house.
It is
because
really
they're all kind of on the same page. Mm-hmm. He's very polite to the mother. He's very, and not in a way like Johnny's polite in a way that is like annoying. Mm-hmm. He's like sucking up to her, but also not understanding what it is she wants from him.
Yeah.
And Ronnie just slides right in there and gets it.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Yeah. Ebert got that one.
Once in a while.
Yeah. Yeah. More so than whatever pastrami guy on Reddit was seeing in it. I love that so much.
This is a movie I'll watch again, and I don't know that I would have if we hadn't covered it. I don't know that it would have occurred to me to go back to it.
There's just also a lot of really good lines in it. You know, we talked about like the wolf without a foot.
Yeah, it really has just some really incredible dialogue. For example, I just love Olympia Dukakis so much.
I know.
I love he doesn't have a name, the grandfather, old man, he's credited as this like presence in the movie who's like talking to his older friends about what's going on in the family, but never really commenting on it to the family and sneaking off to feed the dogs dinner until he shows up at the end, like everybody else, to like tie up his part. But when he's sneaking food off to his dogs, Rose says, "Old man, you give those dogs another piece of my food and I'm going to kick you till you're dead."
Yeah. Yeah.
Not I'm going to kill you.
No, I'm going to kick you till you're dead.
Till you're dead.
Yeah. Yep.
He also gets the great line when Loretta accepts Ronnie's proposal. The old man, he starts crying, and Cosmo says, "What's the matter, Pop?" And he just says, "I'm confused."
Yes, that's right. Oh, it's so good. And I love him with all of his dogs.
Oh, I love him with all of his dogs.
Yeah.
He's just such a fun. That's the thing. It's like he didn't need to have all those dogs. This movie is its characters are so fleshed out in really interesting, unexpected ways. He didn't need to be there at all.
Like, he doesn't add to the plot. He's just an old man that lives in the house with them. I mean, he's, and he's got all the dogs, and he's kind of like a comic relief moment.
Well, and it's another thing about these old Italian families that that's just kind of what happens.
Yeah.
Now I could just go through all of the incredible lines when Ronnie says, "I ain't no freaking monument to justice."
Mm-hmm.
That whole thing.
Oh, his whole speech. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's also another thing about these old neighborhoods with these families that have been there forever. When Loretta goes to confession and the priest just calls her Loretta. You're not supposed to do that.
I know. I know. What was that second one?
What was it the second thing you said, Loretta?
It's pretty important. Yeah. It was the others. It was 2 years since her last confession, and then there was something else that she confessed to that was like nothing, and she slipped the...
I bounced a check at the liquor store, but that really was an accident.
Right.
Then it's not a sin. But what was that second thing you said, Loretta?
Yeah. It just feels very like... The dialogue is so perfectly toned and perfectly calibrated, too.
Yes.
It's a little bit, like we keep saying, melodramatic, but it's also really grounded in... Like, we both know people that sound like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, you know what's now? Sorry, but what's also really sweet? Not sweet. I don't know what the word is. But when Rose asks Cosmo to stop seeing, I forget her name, to stop seeing Mona. Perfect. She starts by saying, "Have I been a good wife?"
Yeah,
and he says, "Yeah," because she obviously has. But there was something about that where, like, it almost feels like if he said no, she might be like, "Okay, all right, then go with Mona." But I have been a good wife.
That's kind of what I was thinking about when I was saying, like, it feels like she feels disrespected. Like, I have done my job, and you are not appreciating how well and carefully I've done my job over the last 50 years.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I kind of feel like, I don't know. I don't feel like we've missed much. No, this one doesn't have a soundtrack to talk about. It's all La Boheme and like
and
Dean Martin. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think this also says a lot about the sort of play / opera / fable quality of this, because the plot in its own way is pretty straightforward, and then everything else you talk about is like set dressing and...
Well, it's very Steel Magnolias. Mm-hmm. Was a play.
Yeah.
One scene, in the beauty parlor. This could have been this could have all taken place at the kitchen table where people were talking about it, about their events.
How is this not... We love making an 80s movie or an early 90s movie into a musical. How has this... It would take so little work to turn this into a musical. I know. I can't believe it hasn't been yet.
I know. You could see it at the Paper Mill Playhouse.
That's right. I can just imagine, like, so much of what Nicolas Cage says could be sung easily. There are just so many. And, like, just like a playful...
Wait. While you say that, hold on. So in the Broadway message board and forum from 2023, there was a post that said, "Talks are underway for an opera adaptation of the 1987 romantic comedy Moonstruck by the composer Ricky Ian Gordon and John Patrick Shanley."
It's the first one I've been, like, excited about.
Yeah. And so I don't know. There's a couple of different articles from different time periods. There's, like, all the way back in 2001, there was some talk about a musical version of this on Broadway. It never clearly happened. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. There's an article here from April 2023 by Javier Hernandez in the New York Times about the Met is planning a big bet on contemporary opera. So as of 2023, talks are underway for an opera adaptation of the 1987 romantic comedy Moonstruck by the composer Ricky Ian Gordon, like you said, and John Patrick Shanley, who wrote the film's screenplay. That's as much
Yeah.
as it says, but
well, there was also apparently
that takes some time.
Yeah. There was also, though, apparently in the early to mid 2000s, a musical adaptation intended for Broadway that never happened.
Yeah, this article from February 2001 in Playbill, Shanley was currently writing the book at that point of the musical version.
Yeah.
Henry Krieger, who did Dreamgirls and Sideshow, was composing the music. Birkenhead, who did Triumph of Love, was writing the lyrics. Wow, it really seems like it was pretty. They had producers attached to it.
Yeah.
Wow, what the heck?
I know. That would have been really cool. What could have been.
And nothing since. So that early 2000s one is obviously separate from this article from 2023.
Yes.
And again, that's April 2023. That's not even 2 years ago. That's just barely 2 years ago. So I'm holding out hope.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Well, I think we did it. Snap out of it, Andrea. So should we then transition into what we're doing next week?
Yeah.
I think it's a very, very easy transition on this one.
Yeah, it's a short walk.
Yeah, not a big swing, left turn, whatever. This is a movie I think I've seen. This is another one of those. I think I've seen it. I watched the preview. It looked familiar. But again, who the fuck knows?
I've seen this movie a billion times. A billion times.
A billion.
We could have put this in anywhere. It fits so obviously, and most especially here, but there are just so many reasons that we would cover this movie.
And strangely, it's not on the Yellow Jackets list.
Makes no sense.
We are watching Mermaids.
1990. It's another Cher joint.
Yep.
But it's
Winona
also
Ryder.
Christina Ricci, Winona Ryder, Bob Hoskins, who I love so much.
Yeah. I'm excited because, if I haven't seen it, it'll all be like new and exciting. And if I have, maybe I'll uncover a lost memory from my teen years. This is always, it's like an adventure for me through my, the Swiss cheese of my memory. So,
well, either way, I think you're going to have a lovely time.
Yeah.
It's based on a novel. It's set in the 60s. It's a teenage girl who moves with her wayward mother and younger sister to a small town in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
It's
got some fun, also, like, Catholicism connections, which we've talked about with Yellow Jackets as well. Shauna's obsession with the tragic saints.
That's right.
So, yeah. I can't wait. I'm excited.
It's going to be a fun one to talk about.
Yeah, we're going to have a fun little run here of a type of movie that kind of vibes well with the last few we've watched. So,
yeah, I really think if you're right around our age and interested in the things we're interested in, which I think you probably are if you're listening to our podcast, but I feel like we're really in a sweet spot right now. Definitely.
In the meantime, you can email us at watcherspodnj@gmail.com. You can find us on Instagram at watcherspodnj. You can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, and you do not have to talk about our show. You can just tell us something about yourself, your favorite order at a red sauce joint.
I love that.
Yeah. Do you get the 6 for $2 Eppley's? Of course you do. But yeah, pop on there. You can find me on Instagram at Jodie_Mim, JODIE_MIM.
I'm at AQ_Andrea_Q. Real quick before we go, Chasing Amy, available for streaming online.
Thank you for remembering. Absolutely. I totally meant to say that.
So we covered it last year with, I'll say it, friend of the pod, Sav Rogers. Beautiful documentary. If you haven't had a chance to see it, I will link to it in the show notes. Go watch it right now. You're going to love it. It's you like
beautiful.
Even if you're not a Kevin Smith super fan like Jodie and I, there's so much to love about that movie, especially if you're interested in the things that we're interested in.
I'm so excited it's finally available for like the general public.
Mm-hmm.
I'll also say if you need an escape from the hellscape that is our current situation, Taskmaster is my newest deep dive. I got into it because, of course, our love, Jason Mantzoukas, is on the latest season. But once that finished, I continued to try out other seasons. And the season that Mae Martin is on is excellent. There is a scene in the 3rd episode that I actually was like crying, laughing alone in my apartment to. So highly recommend both the season with Jason Mantzoukas, but also the Mae Martin season. And yeah, I'm continually watching it to try to stave off the creeping sense of dread. So, endorsed.
Yes.
Taskmaster.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it. We will see you next week in Massachusetts.
That's right. Massachusetts.
Lovely.